The ship came down from the sky on a Tuesday morning. It was big, bigger than anything humans had ever built. It blocked out the sun over Geneva and cast a shadow that covered the entire city. Captain Jake Miller stood on the roof of the United Nations building and watched it land. He was a tall man with gray eyes and a calm face. He had seen war. He had seen death. But he had never seen anything like this. The ship was black and smooth like glass. It made no sound as it touched the ground in the middle of the plaza. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then a door opened, and they came out. There were 5 of them. They walked on 2 legs like humans, but that was where the similarity ended. Their skin was pale blue. Their eyes were large and black with no white in them. They wore silver robes that seemed to float around their bodies. The leader stepped forward. He was taller than the others. A small device on his chest glowed and spoke in perfect English. "I am Ambassador Tor of the Galactic Dominion. I come to speak with the leaders of this world." Jake watched as the world leaders gathered in the Great Hall. Presidents, prime ministers, generals, and scientists all sat together. Admiral Lisa Kane stood beside Jake near the back of the room. She was the head of the United Earth Military Command. Her face showed nothing, but Jake could see her hands were tight fists. Ambassador Tor stood at the center of the room. He looked at the humans the way a person might look at insects. "The Galactic Dominion has ruled this galaxy for 50,000 years, Tor said. His voice was smooth and cold. "We are a coalition of 3,000 species. We have 2 million warships. We have conquered every corner of known space." He paused to let his words sink in. "Your species has just learned to travel between stars. You have built one small colony on a distant world. You have 200 ships." He made a sound that might have been a laugh. "This is not impressive." The room was silent. Jake felt anger rising in his chest, but he kept his face calm. "We are here to offer you a place in the Dominion," Tor continued. "You will submit to our rule. You will surrender all military technology. You will accept classification as a primitive labor species. Your people will serve the greater civilizations of the galaxy." A murmur went through the room. Jake saw fear on some faces, confusion on others. But on Admiral Kane's face, he saw only steel. The President of the United States stood up. His voice was steady. "And if we refuse?" Tor tilted his head like a bird examining a worm. "No species has ever refused. It would be unwise. You cannot fight us. You cannot hide from us. You cannot run from us. Resistance is not just futile. It is mathematically impossible." "I understand," the President said. "We need time to discuss this." "Of course." Tor waved one long hand. "You have 30 of your Earth days. When we return, you will give us your answer. If you submit, you will be absorbed peacefully. If you resist—" He paused. "Then we will correct your mistake." The aliens left. Their ship rose into the sky and vanished among the stars. For 3 days, the world leaders argued. Some wanted to surrender. They showed numbers and calculations. 200 ships against 2 million. It was not a war. It was suicide. But others refused. They spoke of freedom, of dignity, of the human spirit. On the 4th day, Admiral Kane called a secret meeting. Only 12 people were invited. Jake was one of them. They met in a bunker deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. 40 years ago, Kane said, we detected signals from deep space. We knew we were not alone. We knew they would come eventually. And we knew they would not come as friends. She pressed a button and a holographic display appeared. It showed blueprints and designs that Jake did not recognize. We have been preparing, Kane continued. In secret. Project Prometheus. The public does not know. The aliens do not know. But we are not as weak as we appear. A woman stepped forward. She was small with dark hair and bright eyes. Her name was Dr. Emma Cole, and she was the smartest person Jake had ever met. 20 years ago, we found something, Emma said. In deep space far beyond our colonies, ruins, ancient ruins of a civilization that existed before the Dominion. We call them the Architects. She changed the display. Now it showed strange machines and weapons of impossible design. The Architects were powerful, more powerful than the Dominion, but they were destroyed 1,000,000 years ago. We found their technology. We have been studying it, building from it, learning. Jake stared at the display. Are you saying we can fight them? Emma smiled. It was not a happy smile. I am saying they have no idea what is coming. 2 weeks later, the world gave its answer. Every nation on Earth voted. The result was unanimous. Admiral Kane stood before the cameras. Behind her stood Jake and 100 other officers in their uniforms. She spoke clearly so that every human on Earth could hear, so that the aliens listening from space could hear. The people of Earth have made their decision, she said. We decline your offer. We will not submit. We will not surrender. We will not kneel. The message went out into space. The Dominion received it. Ambassador Tor read the words 3 times. He was certain there was a translation error. No species had ever refused. It was not logical. It was not rational. It was not possible. But the humans meant it. On the bridge of the Defiance, Jake stood at the window and looked at Earth. The blue and green planet hung in the blackness of space like a jewel. Behind him, his crew worked in silence. Lieutenant Amy Park came to stand beside him. Lieutenant Amy Park came to stand beside him. She was young, barely 25. But she was the best tactical officer in the fleet. Captain, she said quietly, do we really plan to fight them? 200 ships against 2,000,000? Jake was quiet for a long moment. Then he smiled. It was a cold smile, a dangerous smile. We are not going to fight them, Lieutenant, he said. We are going to terrify them. Amy frowned. How? Jake turned away from the window. His gray eyes were hard as stone. They think they know us. They think we are weak. They think we are afraid. They have ruled this galaxy for 50,000 years because every species they met was willing to kneel. He paused. They have never met a species that would rather die than submit. Outside the window, the stars burned cold and bright. Somewhere out there, the Dominion Armada was gathering. They were coming to teach humanity a lesson. They did not know that humanity had lessons of its own to teach. In the bunker beneath the mountains, Dr. Emma Cole worked through the night. Her team had not slept in days. The final pieces of Project Prometheus were coming together. She held up a small device. It looked simple, almost ordinary. But inside it was technology that the galaxy had not seen in 1,000,000 years. They think we are bluffing, she whispered to herself. They are wrong. 30 days passed quickly. On the last day, the sky filled with ships. 10,000 Dominion warships appeared at the edge of the solar system. They moved toward Earth like a wave of darkness. High Commander Vex stood on the bridge of his flagship. He was the greatest military leader the Dominion had ever produced. He had conquered 100 worlds. He had never lost a battle. He looked at Earth on his display and felt nothing but boredom. This would be easy. This would be quick. These primitive creatures would learn their place. He opened a channel and spoke. People of Earth, this is your final chance. Surrender now, or face destruction. Earth's response was silence. Then, across the solar system, something happened. 400 defense platforms activated. They rose from the surfaces of moons, from asteroid fields, from places the Dominion scans had somehow missed. Vex stared at his display. His officers whispered in confusion. The platform should not exist. The Dominion had scanned this system. They had found nothing. For the first time in his long career, High Commander Vex felt something he did not recognize. It felt like doubt. News traveled fast across the galaxy. Within hours, every species in the Dominion knew what had happened. A primitive species from a small planet called Earth had refused to submit. They had said no to the most powerful empire in history. The galaxy laughed. On 1,000 worlds, aliens gathered around screens to watch the broadcasts. Commentators made jokes about the insane primates who thought they could resist. Betting pools opened across the Dominion. People wagered on how quickly Earth would fall. The shortest estimate was 4 hours. On the ancient world of Nexus Prime, the Council of 12 gathered in their great chamber. This was where the rulers of the Dominion made their decisions. 12 seats for 12 species. They had ruled the galaxy together for 50,000 years. Elder Prime Nix sat in the highest seat. He was old. So old that no one remembered exactly how many centuries he had lived. His skin was gray and wrinkled like old paper. His eyes were yellow and tired. The humans have refused, Ambassador Tor reported. They claim they will not surrender. Laughter echoed through the chamber. One of the council members, a creature with 4 arms and a face full of teeth, slapped his seat in amusement. They have 200 ships. He said, "We have 2 million. What do they think they can do?" Perhaps they do not understand numbers, another council member suggested. Primitive species often struggle with mathematics. More laughter. But Elder Prime Nix did not laugh. He sat in silence and watched the recording of Earth's response. He watched Admiral Kane speak her words of defiance. He saw something in her eyes that troubled him. "There is something strange," he said quietly. The laughter stopped. When the Elder Prime spoke, everyone listened. "What do you mean?" Tor asked. "In 50,000 years, every species we have met has shown fear when we arrive. They beg, they negotiate, they try to delay. Even the brave ones show some fear." Nix leaned forward. These humans showed no fear. None at all. Silence filled the chamber. "They are simply stupid," Tor said. "Too primitive to understand their situation." Nix was not convinced, but he said nothing more. The council voted to authorize the subjugation of Earth. High Commander Vex was given command of the operation. It was considered an insultingly easy assignment for someone of his reputation. On Earth, humanity prepared. Admiral Kane stood in the command center beneath the Rocky Mountains. Screens covered every wall. Officers ran back and forth with reports and updates. The entire planet was mobilizing for war. "Status report," Kane said. A young officer stepped forward. "All defense platforms are in position. The hidden fleet is ready. Dr. Cole reports that Project Prometheus is at 95% completion." Kane nodded. "What about our people?" "Every nation has contributed troops and resources. Old enemies are working together. Russia, China, the United States, everyone. For the first time in history, Earth is truly united." Kane allowed herself a small smile. The aliens had done something that humans had never been able to do on their own. They had given humanity a common enemy. In a military base in Texas, Sergeant Ben Torres trained his Marines. They were the best soldiers Earth had ever produced. But they were about to face something they had never faced before. "Listen up," Torres shouted. His voice was rough from years of combat. "The enemy thinks we are soft. They think we are weak. They think this will be easy." He walked down the line of soldiers. They stood straight and still. Their eyes burned with determination. They do not know what humans are, Torres continued. They do not know that we evolved on a death world. They do not know that our planet is covered in poison, disease, radiation, and predators. They do not know that we survived ice ages, plagues, and wars. He stopped and looked at his soldiers. We are not soft. We are not weak. We are the descendants of survivors. Our ancestors did not give up when things got hard. They fought. They adapted. They won. He raised his fist. And so will we. The soldiers cheered. Across the world, scenes like this played out in every nation. Humans prepared for the fight of their lives. They built weapons. They trained soldiers. They said goodbye to their families and hoped they would see them again. In her laboratory, Dr. Emma Cole worked without rest. The final components of Project Prometheus were being assembled. Her team had not slept in days, but no one complained. They understood what was at stake. How long? Kane asked during one of her visits. Emma wiped sweat from her forehead. We will be ready. I promise. The Dominion fleet will be here in 2 weeks. I know. Emma turned back to her work. We will be ready. Lieutenant Amy Park sat at her station on the Defiance, listening to alien communications. She had cracked their basic encryption weeks ago. Now she could hear everything they said. What she heard made her angry. They are placing bets on us, she told Captain Jake Miller. They are gambling on how fast we will die. Some of them are watching our broadcasts for entertainment. They think this is funny. Jake sat in his captain's chair. His face showed nothing, but his eyes were cold. Good, he said. Amy frowned. Good? Yes, let them laugh. Let them think this is a game. Let them believe we are nothing. He leaned forward. Overconfidence is a weakness, and we will use every weakness they have. The days passed. The Dominion fleet moved closer. On Nexus Prime, Elder Prime Nix continued to watch Earth's broadcasts. He saw humans training, building, preparing. He saw no signs of surrender, no signs of negotiation, no signs of fear. It disturbed him. You are worried, Elder Prime, his assistant observed. Nix was quiet for a long moment. Do you know why we destroyed the architects? The assistant looked surprised by the question. They were dangerous. They had technology that threatened the Dominion. Yes. Nix nodded slowly. They were too stubborn, too determined. They refused to submit, no matter what we did to them. We offered peace. We offered partnership. We offered mercy. They refused everything. He paused. In the end, we had to destroy them completely. Every ship, every world, every record of their existence. You think the humans are like the architects? Nix did not answer. But deep in his old heart, a warning bell was ringing. High Commander Vex did not share the Elder Prime's concerns. He stood on his flagship and watched Earth grow larger on his display. His fleet of 10,000 ships surrounded him. Each ship was massive, armed with weapons that could crack planets. Prepare the forward fleet, he ordered. 2,000 ships. We will eliminate their defense platforms first, then proceed to the planet. Yes, Commander. His officers moved to obey. Vex watched the small blue planet with cold eyes. He had conquered many worlds. This would be no different. These humans would learn their place, just like every other species. Sir, one of his officers said, we are detecting energy readings from the solar system. Strange readings. What kind of readings? Unknown, sir. They do not match anything in our databases. Vex waved his hand dismissively. Primitive technology. Ignore it. The officer hesitated but obeyed. On Earth, Jake stood in front of his crew. The Defiance was ready for battle. 200 human ships were ready to fight. It was not enough. Everyone knew it was not enough. But they would fight anyway. "You all know what is coming," Jake said. "You all know the odds. I will not lie to you and say we will definitely win. I will not promise that we will all survive." He paused. "But I will tell you this. We are fighting for our home. We are fighting for our families. We are fighting for every human being on Earth." He looked at their faces. Young and old. Men and women. Different colors, different backgrounds, different beliefs. But today, they were all the same. They were all human. "The Dominion has ruled this galaxy for 50,000 years, Jake continued. They think they cannot be beaten. They think they are gods. Today, we prove them wrong. Today, we show them what humanity can do. Today, we fight." The crew cheered. The sound echoed through the ship like thunder. In the command center, Admiral Kane watched the Dominion fleet approach. Her hand rested on a button. When she pressed it, everything would change. Decades of secret preparation would be revealed. Dr. Cole stood beside her. "It is time." Kane nodded. She looked at the screen one last time. She thought about her children, her grandchildren, the world she was fighting to protect. Then she pressed the button. Across the solar system, 400 hidden platforms activated. They rose from their hiding places and powered their weapons. At the same time, something else happened. Something the Dominion did not expect. Billions of nanoscale EMP mines activated throughout the system. They were invisible to Dominion sensors. They had been seated in space for years, waiting for this moment. The trap was set. I Commander Vex stared at his display as red warnings flashed across the screen. His officers shouted in confusion. Something was wrong. Something was very wrong. For the first time in 10,000 years of conquest, the Dominion had flown into an ambush. And the humans were just getting started. The Battle of Seoul began with silence. I Commander Vex stood on his bridge and watched his forward fleet move toward Earth. 2,000 ships against 400 defense platforms. The math was simple. The outcome was certain. "Destroy the platforms," he ordered. "Then proceed to the planet." His ships opened fire. Beams of energy crossed the darkness of space. The human defense platforms fought back, but they were overwhelmed. One by one, they exploded in bright flashes of light. "Platforms destroyed," his officer reported. "Proceeding to Earth." Vex nodded. This was how it always went. Primitive species built their little defenses, and the Dominion swept them away like dust. But then something strange happened. The first ship went dark. Its lights went out. Its engines stopped. It floated in space like a dead thing. Then another ship went dark. Then another. Then 10 more. Then 100. "What is happening?" Vex demanded. His officers worked frantically at their stations. "Unknown, Commander. Our ships are losing power. Systems are failing. How? We detected no weapons." No one had an answer. Across the solar system, Dr. Emma Cole watched from the command center with a small smile on her face. Her nanoscale EMP mines were working perfectly. The tiny devices were invisible to Dominion sensors. They attached to enemy ships and destroyed their electronics from inside. It was technology from the architects. Technology the Dominion had forgotten existed. Phase 1 complete, Cole reported. 600 enemy ships disabled. Admiral Kane nodded. Begin Phase 2. Launch the fleet. 200 human ships burst from Earth's orbit. At their head was the Defiance, with Captain Jake Miller in command. The Dominion expected the human ships to die quickly. Their weapons were primitive. Their shields were weak. It should have been a massacre. It was not. Jake pushed his ship forward at impossible speed. The Defiance twisted and turned through enemy fire with moves that defied physics. Behind him, his fleet followed. Vex watched in confusion. How are they moving like that? Those maneuvers should tear their ships apart. His science officer checked his readings 3 times. Commander, their pilots are experiencing forces that would kill any of our species. They should be dead. Then why are they not dead? The answer was simple. Humans were different. For millions of years, humans had evolved on a harsh world. They had survived crushing gravity, extreme temperatures, and constant danger. Their bodies were tough. Their bones were dense. Their muscles were strong. A human pilot could survive forces that would turn a Dominion officer into paste. The battle became chaos. Human ships flew circles around the larger Dominion vessels. They were faster and more agile. They hit hard and moved before the enemy could respond. On a disabled Dominion command ship, Sergeant Ben Torres and his Marines prepared for boarding action. Their shuttle attached to the hull with a magnetic seal. Cutting tools burned through the metal. Remember, Torres told his squad, these aliens have never fought humans in close combat. They do not know what we can do. Show them. The door blasted open. Torres led his Marines inside. The Dominion soldiers waiting for them were tall and armed with advanced weapons. They expected the humans to fall easily. They were wrong. Torres moved through them like a storm. He was faster than they expected, stronger than they expected. When they shot him, his armor held. When they tried to fight hand-to-hand, he broke their bones. The battle lasted 16 hours. 16 hours of constant fighting. No rest, no breaks, no mercy. By the end, every Dominion soldier on the ship was dead or captured. Torres and his Marines were tired and wounded, but they were alive. Ship secured, Torres reported over the radio. His voice was hoarse. Proceeding to the bridge. On his flagship, Vex received the news with growing disbelief. His forward fleet was being destroyed. Ships that had conquered 100 worlds were falling to primitive humans. How is this possible? He whispered. His science officer had been studying the battle data. His face was pale. Commander, I think I understand now. These humans, they are persistence predators. What does that mean? On their home world, they hunted by chasing prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. They do not stop. They do not tire. They do not quit. The officer swallowed. Our soldiers can fight for 3 hours before they need rest. These humans have been fighting for 16 hours and they are still going. Vex stared at the battle display. His fleet was dying. His soldiers were dying. Everything was falling apart. He made a decision. Call for reinforcements, he ordered. Contact the nearest sector command. Tell them to send everything. 40,000 more ships were dispatched from nearby systems. They would arrive within hours. Surely that would be enough to crush these stubborn humans. In the command center, Lieutenant Park intercepted the message. They are calling for help, she reported. 40,000 ships incoming. Admiral Kane smiled. Perfect. They are doing exactly what we expected. She turned to Dr. Cole. Is it ready? Cole nodded. Project Prometheus Phase 2 is ready. At the edge of the solar system, hidden in the cold darkness of the Oort cloud, something massive began to power up. It was a structure that humanity had been building in secret for 20 years. No one outside of Earth knew it existed. It was a gateway. The gateway activated. A hole opened in space, glowing with blue light. Through it came ships. Human ships. 5,000 of them. They were the secret fleet, built at hidden colonies that the Dominion had never discovered. Colonies established decades ago, when humanity first learned they were not alone. colonies that had been preparing for this day. Vex stared at his display. The color drained from his face. Where did those ships come from? He demanded. Where did they get 5,000 ships? No one could answer him. No one understood what was happening. Jake saw the reinforcements arrive and felt hope rise in his chest. They had kept the secret for 20 years. 20 years of building, planning, and waiting. Now the trap was complete. All ships, this is Captain Miller, he broadcast. Phase 2 is active. New orders. Push the enemy back. Do not let them reach Earth. The human fleet, now 5,200 ships strong, surged forward. They hit the remaining Dominion forces like a hammer. The enemy ships, already confused and damaged, began to fall back. On Nexus Prime, Elder Prime Nix watched the battlefield with growing horror. Where did they get those ships? Ambassador Tor asked. His voice shook. Our scans showed nothing. We monitored their entire solar system. We did not monitor far enough, Nix said quietly. They had colonies we did not know about. They had ships we could not detect. They have been preparing for this. The Council of 12 was in chaos. Nothing like this had ever happened. No primitive species ever surprised them like this. Send the main armada, one council member demanded. Send all 2 million ships. Destroy them. Nix raised his hand for silence. We need to think carefully. These humans are not what we believed. They are something else. Something dangerous. They are primitives. They are destroying our fleet. Nix's voice was cold. Look at the numbers. They are winning. The chamber fell silent. On the display, Dominion ships continued to explode. Back in the Sol system, Vex made his decision. All ships, fall back, he ordered. Retreat to the rendezvous point. We will wait for the main armada. His officers looked shocked. Retreat, Commander. We have never retreated. We have also never fought an enemy like this. Vex watched the human ships pursue his fleeing forces. We need to regroup. We need to understand what we are dealing with. The Dominion fleet retreated. For the first time in 50,000 years, they ran from a battle. On Earth, the news spread quickly. People danced in the streets. They had won. Against all odds, they had won. But Admiral Kane did not celebrate. She stood in the command center and watched the enemy ships disappear into deep space. This is not over, she said. They will be back. And next time, they will bring everything they have. Jake returned to Earth orbit with what remained of his fleet. They had lost 40 ships and thousands of sailors. But they had won. Amy met him on the bridge. Sir, we did it. We actually did it. Jake looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, 2 million Dominion ships were gathering. The real battle was still coming. We won the first round, he said. But the fight is just beginning. They will not underestimate us again. In her laboratory, Dr. Cole prepared for the next phase. They had shown the galaxy that humanity could fight. Now they needed to show them that humanity could win. She looked at the plans on her screen. The final phase of Project Prometheus. The weapon that would end the war. They think they know us now, she whispered. They still have no idea. Outside, the stars burned bright and cold. The universe was watching, and humanity was just getting started. The Battle of Sol was the most watched event in galactic history. Every species in the Dominion tuned in to watch. They expected to see the primitive humans crushed quickly. Instead, they saw something impossible. They saw humans win. On 1,000 worlds, aliens sat in stunned silence. The jokes stopped. The betting pools went quiet. No one was laughing anymore. This cannot be real, a commentator said on one of the most popular broadcasts. Our military analysts are saying the humans use tactics we have never seen before. Maneuvers that should be physically impossible. They are calling them insane. Insane? What does that mean? It means the humans do not seem to care about their own survival. They fly their ships in ways that should kill them. They fight until they cannot stand. They refuse to surrender even when defeat is certain. Across the galaxy, slaves began to whisper. For 50,000 years, they had been told that the Dominion could not be beaten. That resistance was pointless. That submission was the only option. Now they saw proof that it was a lie. On Nexus Prime, the Council of 12 met in emergency session. The atmosphere was tense. Fear hung in the air like smoke. The full armada is being assembled, High Commander Vex reported. His voice was quiet, defeated. 2 million ships will be ready within 30 days. That should be more than enough to destroy them, one council member said. Should be, Vex agreed. But I thought 10,000 ships would be enough. I was wrong. Elder Prime Nix sat in silence, watching and listening. His old eyes saw things that younger beings missed. Tell me about the technology they used, he said. The invisible mines. The hidden platforms. The gateway that brought their secret fleet. Vex shook his head. Our scientists cannot explain it. The technology does not match anything in our records. It is advanced. More advanced than it should be for a species at their level. Nix felt a cold weight settle in his stomach. He knew that technology. He had seen it before, 1,000,000 years ago. The architects, he whispered. The chamber went silent. The architects were not spoken of. They were a forbidden subject, a dark secret from the Dominion's ancient past. Elder Prime, Tor said carefully. The architects were destroyed. They are gone. Their species is gone, Nick said. But their ruins remain, scattered across the galaxy, hidden on dead worlds and in empty space. He looked at the council with tired eyes. The humans found something. They found architect technology, and they have learned to use it. Fear spread through the council like a disease. On Earth, Admiral came prepared for what was coming. The celebration was over. The hard work was beginning. We have 30 days before the main armada arrives, she told her commanders. 2 million ships. Even with our hidden fleet and architect technology, we cannot defeat them in a straight fight. Then, what do we do? Jake asked. Kane smiled. It was a dangerous smile. We do not fight fair. Dr. Emma Cole stepped forward. She had been working without rest for weeks. Dark circles surrounded her eyes, but her mind was sharp as ever. When we found the architect ruins, she explained, we discovered more than just weapons. We found their history, their records, and we learned why the Dominion destroyed them. She activated a holographic display. It showed a massive space station, beautiful and terrible. This is the Throne of Stars. It is the command center for the entire Dominion fleet. Every ship in their armada receives orders and navigation data from this station. Without it, their 2 million ships cannot coordinate. They become 2 million isolated targets. Jake stared at the display. Where is it? Deep in Dominion space, defended by 100,000 ships. Cole paused. But I have created something that can end this war. A virus that will corrupt every Dominion navigation system in the galaxy. If we can upload it to the Throne of Stars, their entire fleet will be crippled. Silence filled the room. That is a suicide mission, someone said. 50 ships against 100,000? No one would survive. I know, Kane said. That is why I am asking for volunteers. Jake spoke before anyone else could. I will go. Everyone turned to look at him. Kane frowned. Captain Miller, you are one of our best officers. We need you here. You need someone who will not stop, Jake said. Someone who will complete the mission no matter the cost. That is me. He looked around the room. They thought we were bluffing. They thought we would surrender when things got hard. I am going to prove them wrong. Sergeant Torres stepped forward. My Marines and I will go too. Someone needs to board the station and plant the virus. That is our job. One by one, others volunteered. 50 ships. 3,000 people. All willing to give their lives to save Earth. Lieutenant Amy Park was one of them. Sir, she said to Jake, you need a tactical officer. I am coming. Jake wanted to refuse. Amy was young. She had her whole life ahead of her. But he saw the determination in her eyes and knew he could not stop her. Welcome aboard, he said. The strike force left Earth 3 days later. They used captured Dominion stealth technology to hide from enemy sensors. Their journey would take 3 weeks through hostile space. On Earth, the remaining fleet prepared for the final battle. The Dominion Armada was coming. If the strike force failed, nothing would stop 2 million ships from destroying the planet. Admiral Kane stood in the command center and watched the 50 ships disappear into the stars. Good luck, she whispered. All of humanity is counting on you. The journey was long and dangerous. The strike force lost 12 ships to patrols and ambushes. They fought through enemy territory without rest, without backup, without hope of rescue. On the Defiance, Jake addressed his crew. In a few days, we will reach the Throne of Stars. 100,000 ships will be waiting for us. The odds are not in our favor. He paused. But odds have never stopped us before. We are human. We do not give up. We do not surrender. We fight until the end. His crew listened in silence. They were tired and scared, but they were also determined. I will not lie to you, Jake continued. Many of us will not survive this mission, but our sacrifice will mean something. Our sacrifice will save Earth. Our sacrifice will show the galaxy that the Dominion can be beaten. He raised his fist. For Earth, for humanity, for everyone who will live free because of what we do today. The crew raised their fists in return. Their voices echoed through the ship. For Earth, for humanity. On Nexus Prime, Elder Prime Nix made a decision that would change his life. He went to his private chambers and opened a communication channel. It was encrypted, hidden from the rest of the council. He had kept it secret for centuries. This is Elder Prime Nix, he said. I am sending a message to the humans of Earth. I do not know if you can receive this. I do not know if you will trust me, but I must try. He paused, gathering his thoughts. I know what you found. The Architect ruins. The Architect technology. I know because I was there when we destroyed them. I was young then. I followed orders. I believed what I was told. He sighed. I have regretted it for 1,000,000 years. The message continued. The Throne of Stars is your target. I know this because it is what the Architects tried to do. They failed. But you might succeed. You are different. You are stronger than they were. More determined. He leaned forward. I am sending you the defense codes for the Throne of Stars. Use them. End this war. End the Dominion. His voice cracked. End my shame. He pressed send. The message flew across the galaxy toward Earth. On the Defiance, Amy received the transmission. Captain. She called. You need to see this. Jake read the message. He read it twice. He could not believe what he was seeing. Is this real? He asked. Amy checked the encryption. It appears to be genuine. The codes match Dominion military frequencies. Jake sat back in his chair. One of the Dominion's own leaders was helping them. It seemed impossible. But so did everything else that had happened. Forward this to Torres, he ordered. Those codes might be the difference between success and failure. The Defiance flew on through the darkness of space. Ahead lay the throne of stars. Ahead lay destiny. Back on Earth, Kane received the same message. She stared at it for a long time. "Not all of them are our enemies," she said quietly. "Some of them want to be free too." She looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there, Jake and his crew were flying toward almost certain death. But now they had a chance. A real chance. "Come on, Jake," she whispered. "Make them pay." The strike force was 2 days away from their target. 2 days from the battle that would decide everything. 50 ships. 3,000 humans. Against an empire that had ruled the galaxy for 50,000 years. It was not enough. Everyone knew it was not enough. But they were going anyway. Because that was what humans did. They faced impossible odds. They fought impossible battles. They refused to accept that anything was truly impossible. The universe had never seen anything like them, and it was about to see what they could really do. The Throne of Stars was the most heavily defended place in the galaxy. It hung in space like a dark jewel, surrounded by rings of warships. 100,000 Dominion vessels formed a wall of steel and fire around it. Nothing could get through. Nothing had ever tried. Until now. Jake stood on the bridge of the Defiance and looked at the enemy fleet. 50 human ships against 100,000. The odds were laughable, impossible, insane. He smiled. "Open a channel," he ordered. "All frequencies. I want everyone to hear this." Amy opened the channel. Jake's voice went out to every ship in the Dominion Defense Force. It went out to the Throne of Stars. It went out to the galaxy. "This is Captain Jake Miller of the Earthship Defiance. I have a message for the Dominion." On the Throne of Stars, High Commander Vex heard the transmission. He was leading the defense personally. After his failure at Earth, the Council had given him one chance to redeem himself. "Let him speak," Vex ordered. "I want to hear what these humans have to say before they die." Jake continued. "You have one chance to stand down. Power down your weapons. Open your defenses. Let us through. We do not want to destroy you. But we will if we have to." Laughter erupted across the Dominion fleet. 50 ships against 100,000? This human was mad. Vex smiled coldly. "Captain Noor, you are surrounded by enough firepower to destroy a planet. Your fleet is nothing. Your threats are empty. This is your final desperate bluff." Jake was quiet for a moment. Then he spoke again. "It is not a bluff." He turned to Amy. "Activate the weapon." Deep in the heart of the Defiance, something ancient and terrible came to life. Dr. Cole's final creation. The last weapon of the architects. A singularity bomb. It was a device that could create a temporary black hole. A wound in space that would swallow everything nearby. Ships. Stations. Stars. Nothing could escape its pull. The architects had built it as a last resort. A weapon so destructive that even they feared to use it. Now it was in human hands. "Target their main fleet," Jake ordered. "Give me a path to the Throne of Stars." The Defiance accelerated. The other human ships fell back, forming a protective barrier. They knew what was about to happen. They knew many of them would not survive. Vex watched the human ship approach. Something was wrong. The small vessel was heading directly for the center of his fleet. Directly for the most concentrated mass of Dominion ships. "What are they doing?" he asked. His science officer went pale. "Commander, I am detecting an energy signature I do not recognize. It is massive, growing exponentially. What kind of energy? I do not know. But if my readings are correct..." The officer looked up with fear in his eyes. "They have a weapon." A weapon we have never seen before. Destroy that ship. Vex ordered. All ships, fire on the lead vessel. 10,000 weapons fired at once. The space around the Defiance became a storm of energy and death. But Jake did not stop. He pushed his ship forward through the fire. Shields failed. Hull breached. Systems exploded around him. All hands, abandon ship, Jake ordered. Get to the escape pods, now. His crew hesitated. That is an order, Jake shouted. The mission continues. Torres, are you ready? On the Marine shuttle, Torres gripped his weapon. Ready, sir? Then go. I will give you your opening. The crew evacuated. Escape pods launched into space, flying toward the other human ships. In minutes, Jake was alone on the bridge of the dying Defiance. He thought about Earth, about his family, about all the people who were counting on him. This is for you, he whispered. This is for all of you. He activated the singularity bomb. Space door open. A black sphere appeared at the center of the Dominion fleet. It was small at first, no bigger than a man. But it grew, and it pulled. Ships screamed toward it. 10,000, 20,000, 80,000. They could not escape. They could not fight. They were dragged into the darkness like leaves in a hurricane. The Defiance was caught too. Jake felt the pull. He saw the blackness growing closer. At the last moment, the ship's emergency systems activated. Dr. Cole had planned for this. A final failsafe. An ejection pod launched from the bridge, carrying Jake away from the singularity just before the Defiance was swallowed. In seconds, 80,000 Dominion ships were gone, destroyed, erased from existence. The remaining 20,000 were scattered and confused. Their formations were broken. Their coordination was lost. And in the chaos, Torres made his move. His shuttle flew through the debris, dodging fire and wreckage. They reached the Throne of Stars and attached to an airlock. The defense codes from Elder Prime Nix worked perfectly. The doors opened. Torres and his Marines stormed inside. The station's defenders were panicked and disorganized. They fought, but they were no match for humans in close combat. Torres led his squad through corridor after corridor, leaving destruction behind them. Main control room is ahead, one of his soldiers reported. Then let's finish this, Torres said. They broke through the final doors. The control room was vast, filled with screens and computers. This was the brain of the Dominion's military. Every ship in the galaxy received orders from here. Torres pulled out a small device. The virus. Cole's masterpiece. He plugged it into the main console. Uploading now, he said over the radio. The virus spread like fire. It raced through the Dominion network, corrupting navigation systems, destroying coordination protocols, breaking the chains that held the Empire together. Across the galaxy, 2 million Dominion ships lost their navigation. They could still move. They could still fight. But they could not coordinate. They could not communicate. They could not receive orders. The Dominion was blind. On Nexus Prime, Elder Prime Nix watched the chaos unfold on his screens. Ships were floating lost in space. Fleets were breaking apart. The Empire he had served for centuries was crumbling. He felt no sadness, only relief. It is done, he whispered. Finally, it is done. The Council of 12 fell into panic. Some tried to flee. Some tried to fight. But it was too late. The slaves across the galaxy saw their chance. They rose up. Millions of beings who had been oppressed for millennia finally fought back. The Dominion fell, not in years or decades, but in days. 6 months later, Earth hosted the first free Galactic Assembly. Representatives from 100 species gathered in Geneva. Species that had been slaves now sat as equals. Species that had been enemies now talked as friends. Admiral Kane stood at the center of the assembly. Behind her was a statue being unveiled. A human hand raised toward the stars, reaching upward in defiance. Elder Prime Nix approached her. He walked slowly, leaning on a cane. The only surviving member of the old council. "I must ask," he said, "how did you know you could win? When we arrived with our ships, our weapons, our threats. How did you know?" Kane was quiet for a moment. Then she smiled. "We did not know," she said. "We had no guarantee. We had no certainty. We simply decided that we would rather die than kneel." Nick shook his head in wonder. "Your dominion ruled through fear. You convinced the galaxy the resistance was impossible. But you made one mistake." "What mistake?" "You met humans." Kane's eyes were bright with pride. "And we do not believe in impossible." Captain Jake Miller stood at the edge of the crowd. He had survived, barely. The ejection pod had saved his life. He had spent weeks in recovery, but he was alive. Amy Park found him there. She was alive, too. So was Torres. So were many of the volunteers who had flown on that impossible mission. "How are you feeling?" she asked. Jake looked up at the stars. The same stars that had seemed so threatening months ago. Now they represented hope, freedom, a future. "I feel like we did something important," he said. "I feel like we changed the universe." Amy smiled. "We did. We really did." The statue was unveiled. The crowd cheered. Humans and aliens together, celebrating their freedom. The inscription at the base of the statue read, "They thought we were bluffing. We weren't." Ambassador Tor watched from the crowd. He was the last of the Dominion's diplomats, allowed to stay on Earth as a gesture of peace. He had spent months trying to understand what had happened, trying to understand how everything had gone so wrong. Now, finally, he understood. They had not miscalculated human military strength. Their numbers had been correct. Their weapons had been superior. Their logic had been sound. They had miscalculated human will. The humans were not stronger than the Dominion. They were not smarter. They were not more advanced. They were simply more stubborn, more determined, more willing to fight for what mattered to them. In 50,000 years of conquest, the Dominion had never met a species like that. And when they finally did, they had no idea how to fight it. On the stage, Admiral Kane delivered her final words. "Today we celebrate not just victory, but possibility. We have proven that no empire is eternal. No tyranny is unbreakable. No future is certain. The universe believed we were bluffing when we said we would rather die than submit. They believed we would surrender when we saw their power. They believed we were too primitive, too weak, too small to matter." She paused and looked out at the crowd. Human and alien faces looked back at her, united, free. They were wrong. And now the galaxy is free because they were wrong. Let this be a lesson to any who would try to conquer again. Let them remember what happened when they came to Earth. Let them remember what humans do when we are pushed too far. She raised her fist to the sky.